What's going on YouTube? My name is Deke and this is my first video for Sorare. I'm going to be going through some of my favorite Wonderkid goalies that you can look forward to seeing. I'm buying some of them, not all of them, but definitely some if you want to invest early. I know goalkeepers are expensive on the platform. If you're new to Sorare, definitely check out Sorare. There's some great content creators on here. And I just want to kind of dip my feet into the water, so to speak, and kind of give you some of my insights and what I'm kind of getting into. So my Sorare journey started about 6 months ago, but I didn't really get into it right away. So I would say 6 weeks ago, really got into it. I'm a huge soccer fan. I'm from the U.S. Big Philadelphia Union fan. Love watching Premier League, everything like that. So with that, I'm obviously going to botch a lot of names. Soccer player names are tough. So I'm American, so that's the reason why I'm botching these. I don't have a great accent, and I don't pronounce these as well as I probably should. Shout outs just before I get started. There's some great discords out there if you're new and you want to kind of see different news, things like that, get different tools. But other than that, let's get into this. So, my number one guy that this is a lock in for U23s. My number one U23 goalie for sure. It's got to be Martin Vandevort from Genk. So, shout out to SoRareData.com. They have everything you could possibly need. So, this is his page here. As you can see, he's in a perfect situation. You know what you're getting. You have to worry about transfer. In 2024, he's going to Leipzig. So you know that's happening. You don't have to worry about is he going to leave. So he's locked in for 2 solid seasons, which is awesome, obviously. Just take a look at his price graph in dollars. You can see that, obviously. But let's go to his scores. So as far as goalkeeping there, it's expensive. It's because there's only one starting per team. If you have the funds, this is not financial advice. This is kind of what I did. I would go after, I'm playing limited under 23. I might dip into rare a little bit. I have an American team, America's team. But as you can see here, I own one card, his limited. Might get into the rare. I mean, the rare's 2.34 ETH. With the ETH crashing, it's not as much money, but dollar amounts have held pretty standard. But you're looking at this, yeah, so the floor price is about $400. If you're looking at ETH 0.38, it's expensive, but goalkeepers are expensive. If you want to play under 23s, this is a great guy to have. So if we take a look at his stats, so goalkeepers, you're not always going to score that ton of points. There are rare hundreds whenever you're looking at this, but you can see pretty green here, decent amount, 96% of the games played. You obviously don't want to, you have these two misses here, but he's playing every game. So you're going to get that out of your under 23. You don't have to worry about is he going to start or is he not. He's my number one. Really like a situation, like I said, with Leipzig in a couple years. He might be, who are they, Galaxy, or however you say his name. Now he can probably be on his way out by then. Then he'll start there. So it's a perfect situation in my opinion. He's my number one. If you're gonna go out, get somebody, get somebody. My number two, Mamardashvili for Valencia and the Georgian national team. So as you can see here, also pretty expensive. These are my two guys that I own. You can see where I bought here. It's on the down, trickle from there. But you can kind of see that he's going down a little bit, but he's going to be a stud. Now, I bought a little bit early. He's not in a great situation as he could transfer. Manchester United is interested in him. I've seen Tottenham is as well, but Man U is really interested as Dean Henderson is going to Newcastle. So that would not be ideal. If he gets that transfer, you got to think De Gea is still their starter. But he would be in the future at Man U. So I'm hoping maybe another year. Then he goes. I would like to see him at Valencia. you take a look at some of his scores. He didn't play much. Young, 21. But you see when he did play against North Macedonia here, 68.8, nice. But then he did score pretty well, high 80s couple, 79. Whenever he did play for Valencia, he did very well. So that's a good situation if he can win that starting role. And he's a little expensive, but we'll get into some value guys as well. But bang for the buck, Womarishvili, he's my number 2. All right, so now Garcia from Espanyol. So this is a guy, he doesn't really play. You might wonder why. So the starter is Diego Lopez. He's 40 years old. Could Garcia kind of get into the team this year? So, like I said, he was a sub couple times. He played full-time, one full-time, terrible score. But could he get that starting role as a 21-year-old, just turned 21? Yeah, I think so. The big thing here that's driving me, that I haven't picked him up yet, but I am definitely going to pick him up as soon as I see one on the floor. His sold price, around $35, 0.03 ETH. That's a cheap entry with a lot of upside to get a starting job. And if he doesn't win the starting job, he's 40 years old, Diego Lopez. So, maybe it's not next year, year after. You got to think it's got to be him. So I would say as my number 1 cheap option, again, not financial advice, it's just my thinking, is he's got some upside. At that price for a goalie, you're not really going to get any starting goalies there. It's a long shot, but it's a guy that I like. My 4th option, so I have a top 4, and then I'll show you the rest of the guys that are kind of honorable mention, but my 4th guy is Danelli from Corinthians in Brazil. So another upside guy. He's only had 1 start, but everything I've seen is they want to, I guess he has a couple more. Yeah, that was a sub, start. So he has 2 starts, but 1 start this season. Another guy that, he's a wonder kid. They're going to give him time. He's only 20, just turned 20, so another young guy. I really think they're going to start working him in at Corinthians, and I don't know, I could see him being another pretty cheap entry point. I like Garcia a little bit better, but if you're playing the Americas and you want to think to maybe next year, he might be a guy that to get now or wait a little bit. Let's see his price graph. It went crazy here whenever he played, and then it's kind of just sloping down. So before it spikes back up, obviously you want to buy low, sell high. But again, not the worst entry point. Goalies are expensive, so shock value on goalies, it's going to happen. Okay, so those are my top 4. I do have an honorable mention just to kind of touch on. I won't talk about them too much. But again, my 4 were Vandevort was 1, Womarishvili was 2, Garcia from Espanyol was 3, Danelli from Corinthians was 4. So my honorable mention, these guys have warts of some sort, and I'm not getting into them, but they're kind of Wonderkid goalies that I just want to touch on. Trubin from Donetsk. So the Ukrainian league is not covered. Obviously, you don't really want him. It's terrible that he isn't covered, because that would be a good guy to have. You have Champions League. He'll get a little bit of action for that, but you're not going to pay for him for just that. He is 0.09, but that is a guy to kind of watch if he does go away from the Ukrainian league. Could be a guy at 20 years old, he gets a lot of burn. Next one, Charlie Setford. He does have a fractured hand for Ajax. English goalkeeper at Ajax. Setford, fractured hand, price isn't great. And he hasn't really played at all. So he's still a little bit off. He's 18 years old, so he has time. Ajax is a great U squad. Kind of guy to take a look at. I wouldn't buy him, but a wonder kid for sure. Next guy at Porto, Mixedo, Francisco Mixedo. Another guy that he is cheap. He has some upside. He only had 1 appearance last year. So, he's not really going to break into that Porto squad. It would be interesting if at 20 he gets maybe a loan opportunity. Could be interesting. But just want to touch on him. Definitely a wonder kid, in my opinion. Could be down the road. Next one, interesting situation. So Saint Etienne was relegated. He was actually named after the club, which is crazy. Pretty cool. He's from England. I wonder what they're going to do. So there has been some interest in him. Not a ton, but there has been some interest. They were relegated, so he won't get points if he stays in that division. I think, I think I'm just going to stay away. Definitely not for .07, but that is a guy that he has a bright future. Plays in the England under 21s. Bright future. Shame they got relegated. Next one, Bilbao. We have Julian Agarizabala. Terrible pronunciation, but he's 0.04 ETH. Another guy that, hey, he made 4 starts last year. Excuse me. He is a wonder kid for sure. Take a look at his stats. Not bad. Whenever he was in at 21 years old, maybe he's a guy in the future, but someone to keep your eye on. Next one, his price just isn't for me, but if you're into the MLS, Chicago Fire, breakout goalie, Gabriel Slonina, he's 18 years old, just turned 18 years old, and he's kind of taking the MLS by storm. If you take a look at his scores, not great, but he is the starter at Chicago. So Chelsea is very interested in him. Could go there. We will see. Real Madrid had a bid rejected for him. So either way, you're looking at a guy who's playing, and most likely you're going to see a loan back wherever he goes if there is a transfer. So you do see some upside here. He's a young goalie. He's playing if you have an American team. That would be a pretty solid one to have. And the price is killing me. 0.22 ETH. I can't really pay that. I mean, it's on par for the other guys, but I really can't pay that in terms of, price. And America's is going to be kind of coming and going with European leagues. European players are kind of who I'm buying right now. But just definitely had to touch on him because he is a wonder kid. Let's see the next one. So Lucas Chevalier, we'll go with that. He was at loan at Valenciennes last year. He could fight for the starting job this year. Who knows? Just guy that if you follow, if anyone plays Football Manager, he's a wonder kid in Football Manager. So I want to touch on him. I know they don't always hit, but Football Manager is spot on a lot of the time. And my last one, Calvin Rutzi, another Ajax. So 2 Ajax goalkeepers. Setford was the other. So this guy, 0.03 ETH. Did not play. But, another guy in the youth setup who's 20. He's young. And he's got some upside. Okay? So again, that's it. I appreciate you being along for my first video. Excited to provide some more content. And if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, you can reach out. Maybe hit a follow, sub for our journey. I'm going to try and do a couple videos a week, and we'll go from there. Thanks for tuning in.